So we're coming on to the second presentation. Remember, these presentations are recorded. We're live streamed, so hello to the virtual world. You can ask questions. Questions make it better. Nora has far more experience than she wants to admit. She is one of the ones who makes actually very sensible decisions, balanced on a lot of information. And to tell you the truth, it's not Nora. Nora's actually got a whole network of people all over Europe and now the States as well.
Yeah.
And so she listens to them all the whole time. And Nora's got this ability to bring all the information together, and then she makes sensible conclusions. One day, Nora's going to get it wrong, and we won't invite her back. But we've had her on stage for 10 years. Nora, it's all yours.
Be careful, Charles, with such predictions. Okay. Hello. Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces, but also new ones. So I think Charles made a wonderful, lovely introduction. I try to rise up to the level he has, or the bar he has put there. Yeah, we'll start with winter 24-25 to go in depth. We have usually the kickoff in the season. So we had in November, by early November, the kickoff for the winter 24-25, the colors like we usually do, together with my team of colleagues from Europe, but also in exchange with people from the US, from China. So we try to make this really a global color forecast, and let's jump in. So, as said, what is, as Charles mentioned, we really want to make sensible and also reasonable predictions. Of course, nobody can read the future or predict the future. But we can try our best to imagine, and I think this is what we need in these times, to imagine how, based on the current situation, things will develop. And what is really necessary, we all know this, we have been talking about this for many years, new paths. So we selected as our keyword for the season, unfolding paths, because as we go, the path develops. And this is a situation we are, just this morning I already heard from a lot of people, oh, it's all so complex and so difficult, and how to get along and how to move forward and what is the right decision. Hey, this is all man-made. It's our work, the result of our efforts. We have achieved a lot, and now we recognize that it comes at a price. Every wealth, every growth, all our comfort comes at a price. And we know we have to figure out how to continue and really change for better. So when we discussed in early autumn last year about the topic or topics or moods, so we said, okay, we have to be really also to show it's cool, it's upbeat mood. It's about being optimistic, because as mentioned before, we have achieved so much, so we can also move forward. Because we have the tools, we have lots of tools, far more tools we really need to make a change. And so it's about us to tell and to show that it's not all doom and dark and reduce and future or tomorrow. I prefer to say tomorrow, because we're moving to tomorrow, that it can be a better and nevertheless better for the environment, but also good for us. So, tempo de créer, time to create, to be creative. We looked a lot to indigenous people. We loved, first of all, for sure, the colors, not only South or Middle American, but also Africa is really an important factor for our color selection. And then, of course, we also look to topics like these here, living bridges, bridges built with plants. In Kazi, in India, in an area where you cannot build bridges with, like we used to do. And they built, and for centuries, these bridges are existing. And of course, we also build new ones. So just to show what human creativity can really achieve. And this is really the most important spirit in which we need not only for the season 24-25, but this will also stay with us and has to be our motto for the coming season 25, whatever, shifting perspectives, really get another focus. And there is light in the future. There is a lot of hope for better. I really want to underline this, that it is necessary that we bring positive narratives, positive stories, because a lot of young guys I'm working with in my master classes, they feel not well with the perspectives for the future. And I'm working with design students, and they need to see that we do our best, the very best, to ensure a good future for them and for our grandchildren too. So, because I think we all agree we don't want to go down to history as the ones who didn't dare when it was necessary to move. So our group of leading colors for the season, we have these 6 stories, and you see here the first one, solastalgia. This is a special thing about our color forecast. We define 6 color stories, or 7 sometimes, but each group has a core, and this core is marked by 3 colors which set the tone, and then we only add dashes of color, accent colors. And so the first story, solastalgia, is a very familiar group, very outdoorsy, very outdoors with story, very familiar colors, then a dimmed color thing with a strong contrast of light and shadow, and then the dark one, but with sparkles. And I will explain later a little bit more. And then we have this complex and diverse, a very loud and nevertheless positive mood, and Flights of Fantasy speaks for itself. And then we have the task to find our balance, also color-wise. Solastalgia is a word which my colleague Mirella brought from Italy, which describes a form of distress in terms of we feel the loss of or the damage of the environment, the changes. So this is a very natural story, which is about, yes, seeing our nature and seeing what we are losing. We are definitely losing, and we won't be able to restore all of it. And furthermore, we also add some shimmering beauty, like this fabric here shows perfectly well. And we like to work with leftovers from our traditions, with old familiar motifs, but shaped a little bit different, more contemporary feeling. And then here the whole color group, which is, as I said, the big ones, 2, 5, and 7, the trio, the leading trio, very natural, the colors taken from nature, like here this picture, which is was taken in the Alps in Italy, in the Dolomiten, in last summer. And this made very clear to my colleague Felicia that the climate change and the disasters are already in our backyard. So it's no longer that we here in Middle Europe are the lucky ones and we are safe. We also see water shortage, droughts, we see flooding, we see melting glaciers, whatever. It's here, and it's here to stay if we don't take all efforts to get down our CO2 emissions at first. So you see here, I said, a perfect story for outdoor gear and a perfect harmony. A little bit of disturbances comes from the number 6 with dark purple. This story we will see, we will also develop this further for summer 25, because this natural story, this relation or with our relationship with nature is of course reflected in many facets, and it's also part of our business here, so we need always a story which goes perfectly well and without lots of words for outdoor clothing. You see here once again some impressions also for graphics, for the color mood, so it's rather tonal coloring, color pairing, and as mentioned before, a love for traditional motifs and patterns. And on the other hand side, we cannot get away from the past, and we look too much backwards and have all the desire, why can't it be again like before the pandemic or better times 10 years ago or something like that. This is not possible, but it's a desire, and people want to feel comfortable also in the clothing. They want familiar clothing, and this familiar feeling comes, of course, with color. That you have really, that you address people with colors which they like and which bring some warmth to feelings. And here some motives, how to combine. Of course, I said traditional patterns, but also trying to develop new forms. A lot of this goes with digital worlds, bringing into the motives, that we create new visions, new universes, and reduce shaping of forms. Yeah, and our next story is underway. So it's not about talking about future, but future is done with every step we do and with every second which passes by. And it's us who shape the future. And we wanted to show that it's a little bit cool, because we are we are careful. We are carefully moving onward. We don't believe that this will be nice. And we wanted to reflect this feeling, that we try to find our balance in between light and shadow. So we have this strong color trio here with the dark midnight navy, and then this a little bit acid yellow, the number 10, and then number 11, which is a little bit the bridging in between these two tones, and then a very strong pairing to number 13 and 14 to enlighten the whole story, to give some, as our chancellor had said, some wumms, so some power. And so this a very attractive story, also outdoor feelings, but also perfectly well in terms of digital presentation for digital moods. And if you are already in digital clothing, you know that colors are really bright usually, that we love bright colors. Our relationship with color and how we see color has really changed over the last few years. We always ask for brighter and more saturated colors because we get used by the screen. Everything has light in it on the screen, and so this really brings us to the point where we ask also in reality for very intense colors. And here's some ideas about graphics and the combination of colors. So you see the color space is right now more getting a depth of kind of 3D feeling also in flat fabrics or patterns. We do a layering of several tones. We intensify the colors, so it's not only the yellow, but 5 different shades maybe of yellow, blurring and melting into one another, and a lot of movement. And for graphics, it's also important to have hand-drawn lines to sketch out. As said, in general, there are studies and there are a lot of, in philosophy and socio-cultural discussions, it goes about, we have to develop narratives of a good future. We have to tell new stories, and this is the spirit we want to represent, to reflect with this story, that it's important to think about. And more than ever, I think it's also a challenge for us designers and developers to really provide new impact, new scenarios. I know it's difficult. I already had this morning 2 discussions about, yeah, but does it work? Is it business? But if we don't bring up new and positive visions, then there is no business either. I'm sure, I'm completely convinced. Yeah? It doesn't help to sit there and be paralyzed and just continue. So, there. And then we will have revealing insights, vistas, outlooks. There are positive outlooks, and this is a story which underlines this. And as mentioned before, of course, also the digital worlds, the gaming scenarios and things like that. We ask for depth. We want to have, even on the flat fabric, we need more in living space, more the feeling of that we have a certain volume. And this meets with the need that we want to touch something which has a feeling, which has a crispy feeling, or that we can touch fabrics with a structure. So this is very important to come up with that. And here you see two fabrics which I just selected. This one fits perfectly well from Scholler with, in coloring with our colors. And at this time I selected not only for the visual factor, but also what I want to see more. That we already did a lot. And we are doing a lot in terms of sustainability and develop new fabrics and new accessories with new properties, with new material, with new fibers. And this is what we have to make more. This is, I know it comes as at a price. It's sometimes more expensive, but hey, it's about our future, our life. And how expensive is this? Oh, what is the price of our life, or of our lives? So, Sparkle in the Dark was an interesting story because we didn't want to make a dark story, but at the end, when we got together for 2 meetings, there was always left 1 pack of paper on the table or in the computer, on the screen of input. And it's all centered around black and white and a little bit of little bit of beige, sandy beige, and maybe a touch of violet. And so we said, okay, this means something, because it's not possible that 9 people get together and all have black stories. So, and then we thought, like my colleague from Italy said, okay, our world is on fire, and there has to be light. And so this is our story, black story. And of course, it's not, but the idea is not to make it black and white seriously, but to bring these softer, these muted tones with a really colorful, muted atmosphere, and to, once again, make this darkness not sober and cool and maybe frightening, but it's about providing warmth. really providing a feeling that you can feel safe, that you can relax. And here's a movement. As for the whole story and in general the whole spirit of the next seasons, it's about movement, about layering, about creating depth and moving these water reflections, and also these, again, visuals with implementations of digital worlds, with reflections of the digital, and a very, I would say, we all love this story very much because it's very harmonious, nevertheless also very sporty. I think a great move, like you can see here, for outdoor again, and but also for other kind of sports. And you can see here some interpretation of checks from my colleague Cornelia, and with swirling kind of geometric shapes reflects perfectly well this idea of being on the move. Some fabrics, I like very much the one on the left-hand side from with 100%, would say, really responsible fabric, so fabric material. This is what bio-based polyester, by the way, bio-based fabrics, bio-based fibers, bio-based thinking will be part of the future. I will talk tomorrow about this. This bioengineering topic is growing and growing in importance. And and the other ones reflect very well what I mean with a sparkle in the dark, or what we intended to see with our decision to make this a topic. And then we have complex and diverse, a story which is for us a reflection of our world today. We have influences from all over the world. We see a lot of pictures, not a lot, we see a flooding of pictures and images. We gather a lot of inspiration in the internet, and we do try to figure out what is important for us, what can we sort out, and constantly under the impression of pictures and things, bringing together things which are not going hand in hand usually. So we have also a lot of clashes, and therefore here our colors also. We have, if you want, you can do a softer combination with this 21 and then this flashy 23 and 24, but it's also a very very loud and intense color grouping. But on the other hand side, if you look to this picture here, over a perfect mood, it's comfortable, it's outdoor feeling. It's really about making color choices with a special attitude, I would say, to really not just say, okay, we do these and these garments, we do in this color. It's really about thinking and developing color concepts which make people feel well in the club. So complex and diverse, yeah, this is our life. Sometimes it's a mess. Nevertheless, we try to figure out, and I especially love this graphics from my colleague from Berta, or from Lithuania. She usually does very precisely detailed graphics and geometries, sober geometries. And this time, and I have to underline how stunning this is, that you just give a keyword, complex and diverse, and then you get this. And it fits perfectly well in what we did in general for this story. Yeah, she grasped the spirit without big communication. So this is for me a quality of design and the designer, to understand and to share the same feelings. And then here again, also some fabrics, a lot of knitwear we see, so perfectly making you feel comfortable. We know that due to the pandemic, or as a consequence of a pandemic, where people really prefer comfort and easy to move around, to feel comfortable in their clothing. So the quest for elastic or for elasticated and really comfortable clothing has been growing over the last 2 years tremendously. And yeah, this brings us to the flights of fantasy. And this is more what we need, and it's the essence, and really also in a futuristic way. And so some impression from Italy, from Mirella Biccucci. She's also always very focusing on family, on people, how we get together, how we live together. And so also here you can see this feeling of being together, feeling comfortable, feeling well in your life, and the colors express this feeling. This very soft, they are all very soft, a little bit chalky, a little bit dim, but very shimmering, and stripped back, but cozy, and with a certain frill due to the strong contrast with number 33, reddish brown. And you see here this really shifting and moving, and therefore I liked very much when I discovered this digital print, Wanderlust. This is exactly what we need to wander into the future, into other ideas, to wander around and look what is good, what can we keep, where do we want to go to. Again here, also, once again, a reflection of this digital kind of building up scenarios of our future, and reflected here with these fabrics. And then what you can do with fabric, I really love that. It's just because when I had it on the table, I twisted it a little bit and then gave a little bit of color power, the power of our last story, to this thing. So this is what we face every day, what our life is complex, it's swirling, it's taking us to places we never thought of, and we have to keep the equilibrium. So story we love very much. Also from a color shading, we really like it. And what I found, found significant that I always ask who wants to do some graphics for this or that story, but really a true outdoor designer, Gabi Altrock, really said, I want to make this. So be prepared to have strong contrasts also in outdoor to see it's possible. It's not always so calm and well balanced. Nevertheless, so you see here, we love this color mood very much. These 3 tones above make a perfect shading, and it's straight to the point. And we love this interaction. We have attraction, you feel attracted by this color, and then you say, this is a little bit strong, I have to dim it down. But on the other hand side, this strong contrast makes us aware that we can manage to make something beautiful out of it. And as said, what was important for us, we have a chance, we have a choice, and we have to change. So this is the message of this story, reflected by this kind of burning forest. And we cannot stay in the way, and we cannot even protect ourselves. We have to take action. And here's some beautiful color combinations, ideas for color combinations from this colleague, Gabi Altrock, which I mentioned before. And I'm always really, really completely flashed by her ability to make, even out of industrial stuff, some nice color combinations, which I would also print on a T-shirt or something like that, or maybe even a swimsuit. So what you get when you get our e-magazine, this whole thing, what you have seen now, is in our e-magazine, Performance Colors by Nora Kühner. And what you get is, first of all, that you have this core colors, this listing, but then you get this as a tool. Every color is specified by the codes from Diester CSI, from Acroma for cotton and polyester, and from Coloro and Pantone. And due to a collaboration with Diester CSI, we also provide a first estimation on the color and wash fastnesses of each color, so that you have already an idea where maybe, but with this color number 19, there might be a problem for dyeing. It's only an indication. It's not a recipe. It's not perfectly well. It's just a first hint for designers. So it's all about us, our brains, our hands. What is coming up? How will we continue? We can unlock a world of possibilities. We just have to take the decision. And so our keyword for the season is man-made. So no complaining, please, no excuses. It's us. We did it. We brought this about over the centuries, over the history of mankind. We brought this up. We love very much this picture, which is also a hint to where that reduction and doing less is not something bad. Not in itself. It can also be, it can work, it can be functional, and it can also look great. So this is a way of how people grow their wine or take care of their vineyards. It's a vineyard on Lanzarote where they have only few water, and they have had to find and kept this archaic kind of growing and taking care of the plants like this. And then we see what is usual and what we nowadays think has to be our life. So it's simplicity and complexity. And what was a feeling for all of us, and this feeling has been growing over the last season, is that we feel like in a labyrinth or in a trapped in a complex situation, and we say, how can we get out? And from every angle, you get the answer, tech, tech, tech. My colleague going to say, agrotech, biotech. Is it all tech? How can we get out? And it's only tech which will take us out. And as I was not so happy with the early date of the fair, it was clear to me that being 5 to 6 weeks earlier, we won't be ready with the first information which you are used to, that we have all 6 or 7 color stories ready with all the codes. Yeah, we try to make as tech will save us. So my colleague Felicia took the chance to ask ChatGPT. So first she asked him about the trend colors, and of course he didn't select the colors, but she took what the ChatGPT answered. She transformed it into, or translated it into colors. And then I love this as an AI language model. I don't have the ability to predict the future or specific trends for 25. So, hey, nor can we. Yeah? So, sorry. No, to be true. So, therefore, of course, in a few years, in a very few years, this, the answer will be different from here. I'm sure that will people, that the ones who program the chat, they will come up with other solutions. But this would be what ChatGPT would recommend. And we said, okay, that's not what we need. We need to have more. And so I will give you now what we, in our first meeting, have now brought together. And I want to underline that color forecasting is not really telling. My colleague said, okay, one of my colleagues said, yes, we can dream the colors. Maybe we can also look to the tea leaves in our cup of tea. But that's not what like we work. We want to deliver really reliable information results. And there's also in the SRZ magazine, which you can take for free here, there's a big article about our work. And I think we will try to change our rhythm and to be, again, earlier than we used now during the last 6 years. But on the other hand side, I think we all agree that we want to get away from these structures, and it's ever earlier doesn't make sense. I got 2 weeks ago, I got an email from a knitting company, and they wrote to me, please send color forecast summer 24. So there are already different speed models in the industry. And being ever more earlier, that's a little bit crazy. But we try to manage and to get this either with ChatGPT or not. So the biggest thing for us is the growing, and I mentioned it before, the growing appeal of on-screen coloring, on the plastic coloring, all these intense shades. So what we will see for summer 25 and what we are working on to distill stories which reflect this natural, very decent, very harmonious feeling of colors, and with these muted shades together with these man-made material colors. What is possible? What can we do? What will we do? So this is the magnetic field in which we want to elaborate our stories. And another story, and something which also influences us is the question: what have we achieved regarding change? And first idea, so as said before with this other story, solastalgia, this story we will continue and adapt it a little bit to the season and maybe get a little bit more warmth into the story, but in general we will have this first. This is the first thing what we sorted out of all what was brought to the table. And then a very, very fresh story with this very intense, nevertheless soft colors, a very strong topic, reflecting again this now interaction of digital possibilities and the natural or everyday environment. And then we have here something about light and warmth. So we see here, like said before, these artificial things with metallic shimmer, grayish tones in abundance, and then here either more natural or technically reproduced coloring with blurring shapes and melting once again. As said, this is not a trend for winter 24-25 only. It's continuing, and we believe in this story of having color spaces which are filled with layers of color to intensify, to weaken the colors, to make them more pale, and that this is the concept for the coming seasons. When we have again here a more muted one, a very harmonious feeling, yellow will be an interesting point in this story, just to stir up a little bit of more of emotion and attractiveness in this story. And then we have this one, which is also seems similar a little bit to the story which I showed you before, with freshness and dynamic, with story of fresh and dynamic feelings. But here we want to go even brighter and really stay with this intense colors and a strong white as a background. White is really an important color. Of course, I know for outdoor gear not so important, but nevertheless, in general, white will be a very interesting color. So, yeah, we will get out of the labyrinth over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I will make a digital presentation, a remote presentation, around Easter or shortly after Easter, I guess. So we will announce this from Performance Days, that we do an official presentation remote of the colors for summer 25 in the usual form as you are used to, with the codes and with the color lineup per story and some first mood boards. So we will inform you about this, but it will definitely be before end of April. Okay, so thanks a lot. Oops, I didn't want this. And if you have any questions or any wishes or your special favorite for the next season, or the color, the strong color you want to see to make us all move forward, let me know, either here or at my booth, or I will be here both days. Nikki?
Hold on, Nikki.
Beautiful presentation. Thank you very much. I see a lot of really bright colors, as you mentioned before. What do you think of the trend of dyeing more with natural dye stuff?
Oh, that is a devil's triangle, I would say now, with Charles on one hand side and you and me. In general, I'm very fond of the idea of dyeing natural. I know all the discussions about our norms and our standards. But again, I have to say here, for some sports, like swimwear, the 2 ladies which are leaving right now, it's their job, and it's where I learned how important the standards and norms are. If you have to bring up fabrics and colors which resist to salty water, to your sunscreen, to the sun shield, and to chlorine. So this is important. But I think in a lot of parts we are over-engineering the norms. And I just attended a conference last week, and I was very flashed by nearly the whole 8 hours of conference. And one thing, we have to break our norms. It's not necessary. And we could be, by far, really be better. Our CO2 emissions, our footprint could be better if we wouldn't over-engineer all the time. Just doing things, I will talk about this tomorrow, just doing things because we can. We have the ability, we have the tools. But whether it's necessary to bring 45,000 millimeter of water column to a skiing jacket or not, nobody considers that. So this is my point of view, and I know that a lot of young guys especially are also coming up with dyeing naturally. And I have to say, why not? I know that there are problems too Well, because somebody told me at Munich Fabric Start, no, but then how to fix the color and this is, bad chemistry and things like that. Hey, then stop doing anything. We are paralyzed, we remain paralyzed, and we do nothing anymore when we are super sustainable. I think it's really weighing in, weighing out, sorting out, and bringing really appropriate approaches to certain questions, not this over-engineering. And yeah, Nikki, that's okay for you?
For those of you who don't know the significance of the question, I'm going to embarrass Nikki. Nikki is a cotton specialist. She's actually on the next generation of cotton. We're looking at regenerative agriculture. You're presenting tomorrow afternoon, last session. If you go to the Performance Days website and look up the Functional Fabric Fair at New York last July, there's a presentation from the AATCC, the American Association of Textile Colorists and Chemists. And they had a very good paper. They are right now considering classifying cotton as a synthetic, because in its growing process, it's 73% cellulosic, 27% pesticide, herbicide, and fertilizer. We then chemically process it, clean it, chemically dye it, chemically finish it. Those of you who were reading the announcement made in December, there was a warship that sunk off America in 1860. They recovered it just before the millennium. Cotton garments had been aboard the boat for over 100 years in relatively shallow and warm water. The pair of trousers was so identifiable as pure cotton trousers was so identifiable as a pair of trousers, they were auctioned before Christmas for $114,000. The waistcoat they brought up was exactly the same. We all grew up knowing that cotton's a natural material, and of course it decomposes. If you buy Nikki's cotton, it could well. But what you've got to do is match it the right way. So sorry to add nerdish detail, but I'm doing that looking for another question. If you listen to Charles, I'll fool you far too much on detail. But yeah, I've got a question for Mark. I don't know the name of the ship. Do you know the name of the ship? The SS Central America. If you Google it, you will find and go, wow, cotton is not giving up as we know. But are there any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to fill. If there are no other questions, I know there are no questions online. Nora's going back to her area, which is over there. Go and speak to her. Those of you who were desperately taking photos during the presentation, she'll supply the PDF. That's the role. So you can have it properly done. Go and chat to Nora, but before we let her go, can we show our appreciation again for Nora?
Thanks. Thanks a lot. One thing I want to clarify, you don't get my PDF of a presentation. This is because it's my work. I've been working now for 5 days on all my presentation. What you get is the PDF of the e-magazine, which is the deal of collaboration with Performance Days, Performance Colors by Nora Kühner, and where it's all up to, with the exception of the fabrics, you will have more or less the same content, but without my voice and my explanations. So I'm open for your explanations. And yes, as the ship was the big topic of the last minutes, remember the ship stuck in the Suez Canal 2 years ago? I think a lot of the business of the economies today are like this big ship. They cannot get out without any help from outside. And so we as designers and developers are here to help these big ships make a turn for the better. Thanks. So.